am compelled by Schlock.
Well, greetings and schlockutations, everybody. We are talking about the cult classic Heathers. I am your co-host, one of your hosts, Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is hosting along next to me, Chris Anonymous. Chris, I have a very important question for you. Last week, we had an episode from The Vault. Did you go back and watch Killer Mermaids?
I did not.
Me neither. Don't worry, I didn't either.
It's so vivid in my
it's just
memory.
It's like it's like when something really traumatic happens and you just have it seared into your mind forever. Killer Mermaids. We all endured it. So yeah, this week we're talking about Heathers. I'm the one who picked this movie. We didn't announce it. I think we announced it on our Twitter. So if you're in Twitter land, come follow us to get all the updates for what we are doing. If you're watching in YouTube land, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe and help us grow the channel. But yes, I picked the movie, and I picked it for two reasons. One, going through Stranger Things season 4 right now, so thought like, hey, why don't keep this Winona Ryder thing going and watch some throwback Winona. And also, as I've expressed on the show before, I am an avid D&D player, and my latest character, I'm trying to channel some Christian Slater, so I needed some good Christian Slater lines. Unfortunately, it's sounding a little bit more like Little Nicky doing the Joker. So
tonight's episode is brought to you by Stranger Things and D&D.
Yeah. So
yeah. Okay.
Give us money. Anyway, so this movie was made in 1988. It costs about $3 million to make. But interestingly, according to the interwebs, it only made just a little over $1 million worldwide, which it's a certified box office flop. However, just in looking around, I didn't see like a lot of bad reviews. Like this movie's terrible. Don't see it. This is a beloved cult classic for some reasons that we're going to get into.
There's sometimes when movies, for some reason, even if they get good reviews, they're just not seen in front of the right audience or enough audience at a certain time. And then that audience finds them and they become cult classics. But it's interesting when a movie underperforms yet is well reviewed. That's not like an art house piece or something like that. This is definitely made for a populous audience.
So audience, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not entirely sure about this, and maybe you have a better idea. Was this movie like kind of on the indie circuit at all? I think it had something to do with Sundance, the Sundance Film Festival, but could that have led to its poor performance? It
wouldn't surprise me if it was, but I can't speak to that. I don't know.
Well, so we're going to get into this movie really quick. Like I said, it's been a pretty influential movie. There's just so much information out there about it. I'm not going to give you a ton. One of the things that I do think is interesting, though, is the impact that it's had on music. I mean, this is obviously a movie that has struck a note with like the young music-going crowd, teenagers, as some call them. But so if you ever listen to a band called From First to Last, Skrillex, ring any bells? They had an album that I remember being pretty good called Dear Diary, My Teenage Angst Has a Body Count. Also, the band the Veronicas got their name from Veronica Sawyer here. Also, there's like a ska band that named some songs after characters in this movie called Edna's Goldfish. And of course, there is a Heather's Broadway musical, I believe. I don't know if it's on Broadway. There is a Heather's musical. So I just found that to be very interesting when I was looking this stuff up, that this movie has had so much impact on the world of music. And also, I don't know if you're going to bring this up, but apparently this movie is very similar to another film called, what was it called? Massacre at Central High.
Which I've not seen, but I'm aware of. I would like to see.
I think we should, if we can get a hold of that movie via Tubi, where we watch all of our movies for free. So Tubi also pay us. If they get Massacre at Central High, we're going to be watching that. Anyway, the way we do this show is we talk about the web of Schlock, kind of who's connected to this movie. We talk about what's good and what's bad, and then we get into just talking about the general ideas of these movies and what was weird and what was crazy. That is the Schlock portion. Just be forewarned. We will spoil this movie and many others. So this is not a spoiler-free podcast, vidcast, whatever we're doing here. Anyway, Chris,
Spoiling.
Tell us about the web of Schlock for this movie.
You know, I'm just going to talk about one person for the web of Schlock. I mean, obviously a great cast, and you've already brought them up. I love Winona Ryder. I love Christian Slater. I mean, he's one of my favorites from back in the day. Yes, he's in some of my favorite movies. So it's always a treat watching the actors. But I want to talk about the writer, Daniel Waters. This guy,
Okay.
Heather's is his first credit. Then he went on to write some schlock masterpieces for like 5 years straight. So Heather's, then The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. I don't know if you're aware of that or seen it, but it's Andrew Dice Clay, and it's pretty schlocky. Then Hudson Hawk, where he reunites with the director of this one, Michael Lehman. Then he goes on to write Batman Returns.
There we go.
Yeah. Then he goes on to write Demolition Man.
No.
Yes.
Demolition Man? That's like one of my all-time favorite movies.
The guy who wrote Heathers wrote Demolition Man, Batman Returns.
There it is.
Hudson Hawk. I mean, it's just like, and all the movies kind of like change on levels of quality, but they're all schlocky and they're all awesome. And it's just like, that's, after that, it's kind of hit or miss. He doesn't have as many movies. And there's some I haven't seen, but that's enough right there. So Daniel Waters, you're awesome. And that's what
you had me at Batman Returns, but you have my love at Demolition
what
Man.
A very
I was on the fence about this movie. Now I love it.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, just go back and watch it. It's
the
like the
line
to Demolition Man.
Right? Ooh, maybe that's something to talk about.
Right?
No, I can't do it.
And then
however, they do say greetings and salutations. That's like their hand wavy sign.
It was in this one.
Yeah.
Greetings and salutations. Yeah.
Nice. All right.
The writer rips himself off, which I love when writers do that.
Yeah, it's a body of work. It's inner dialogue between his art.
Oh man, I hate to call you out on this, but and we didn't talk about it before, but we should have said greetings and schlockutations for the intro.
That's what I said.
Oh, is it?
Did I not say that? Did I mess it up? Oh no.
You might have said it. I was coming in to sit down, so maybe I just wasn't listening to you and I made an ass of myself.
Man, don't you watch the show?
If you did do, well, I mean, I am watching it now.
I'm pretty sure I did that.
You are awesome and amazing, and I'm glad I'm doing the show.
All right. Well, let's get into the good and the bad. We're trying to shorten this section down because there's just always so much to talk about, and there's always so much preamble and post-amble.
We run out of time because we arbitrarily set a time limit.
Right. Exactly. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to fire through real quick. I just have like two quick things for good and bad. Good. It's a quirky film and it's just kind of like undeniably lovable. Like I said, I didn't like love this movie at first, but I couldn't not like it. Like I couldn't hate it. Like it's just this interesting movie to see. The dialogue, is kind of, it is both the good and the bad of this. Like I loved the JD and his dad talking back and forth between each other where they flip the roles of the father and son. There's just a lot of quirky dialogue in this that makes it live on. The bad is also some of the dialogue. The Heathers thing where all the girls, they're named Heather, and so they're saying that, and that's like, I think the first line of the movie, I was immediately over it. I was like, okay, I get it. Please don't say that word ever again. But they go on to like say it like 90 times.
Right.
And my second big bad thing is I just couldn't find a theme for the movie to latch onto. Obviously, it deals with some very heavy subject matter. And it's like, in the end, I was like, what is this movie about? Like, about what does it really have to say about anything? And I was unsure. And that left kind of a bad taste in my mouth. So that's my good. That's my bad. Chris, where are you at?
Mine's really broad. I love the direction. I love the writing, especially the dialogue. I have a couple ideas for some themes we'll talk about. And I can talk about all sorts of like, the dialogue, like you said, and like the use of color and some of the framing and just the direction, the writing, the cast. I love it all. I don't really have anything in for the bad. Anytime you watch a movie, some things age really well, some things don't, and then, like you talked about, like all the quirky dialogue, they go for it. Right. So I would rather have a movie go for it and have some of the best lines that I can remember, make it so quotable. And you have a couple duds in there, right? That's forgivable. I would prefer that than just having okay dialogue throughout without taking any chances. Point. I don't have anything for the bad. Let me qualify that. I have something that I would do differently based on what I think the themes of the movie are or could be and how it interacts. So even though I like this stuff, my bad is the stuff with JD's dad.
Oh, really?
I would remove it from the movie. Not because I didn't like it. I really liked it. But I would remove that from the movie. And we'll talk about that in Schlock.
Well, let's use that
right now.
Yeah, let's go into Schlock. You didn't like the dad.
No, I liked
it.
That
storyline or that thread.
No, I don't like it because of what it does to JD's character and what I think JD's character is.
Okay, go on.
So let's talk about a couple things. First, let's pull up some pictures here. Let's pull up my 4 pictures. So let's go with Fire Inside first.
This is right after the college party where Winona Ryder's character Veronica throws up on the floor.
So, and this is
she's
what I'm
leaving
talking.
The party.
And you talked before we talked before the show, and you talked about kind of like surrealism and absurdist and satire and everything. And here's where I really like the direction, and it's over the top, but in a way that is appropriate for symbology and for satire. And so she started this fire, and now it's behind her, kind of having this glow of her where she's mad. Mm-hmm. So it's framing her in such a way that there's a fire inside her. And then it after the shot, it pans and the fire's between the two girls, and that's where they're fighting. And it's this really simple visual thing that if you did it once, I might roll my eyes. Let's continue. To Burning Pictures. This is later.
So this is after the third Heather. She's being blackmailed by JD, correct? And
correct.
He has some pictures of her.
And so she's done what she's supposed to do. So now he's burning the evidence, or he's letting her burn the evidence. So interesting. Again, you have a fire in between those two characters, and then the next shot is over her shoulder, and the fire completely engulfs JD's character. Now we're going to get somewhere here. Let's pause here on my pictures, and we'll talk about it, and then we'll go to the other two pictures.
I love where you're going with this. This is like a video essay,
right? So, so you had throughout film criticism, but at one point in time, especially in the early 2000s and mid 2000s, you had a complaint about a trope, a character called the Manic Pixie Dream Girl. You aware of Manic Pixie Dream? Okay. And, you know, where they're not their own characters and they're just there to help the other character grow and to be cute. And, you know, they're a prop as opposed to a person, right?
Right.
But it's also, it's like it's a totem for the main character to become a better person. Okay. JD is not a Manic Pixie Dream Girl. He's a Manic Pixie Nightmare Guy, or a satanic Pixie Nightmare Guy. He's the devil. And what he does is the opposite of a Manic Pixie Dream Girl. He doesn't have his own character. He's not his own thing. He's just there to help her, instead of become better, to become worse. And then she flips that at the end, and she resists, and she becomes better because of it. But that's not. But his role is Satan, and this is not really surrealism. I mean, it is, and it's got all sorts of stuff. But I think it's allegorical.
Okay.
I think this is a cautionary tale of, especially as teenage angst, of be careful what you wish for, because the devil's listening, right? And it kind of harkens back to all those really great early American short stories of the devil and this person and this person.
Devil at the crossroads.
Correct. And so that's why I don't like the stuff with JD's. I don't like the stuff with JD's dad, because that takes away from this character who might only exist in her mind, who might be real, who might be the devil. It gives him an out of like, oh, his mom was sad and she died, and his dad's kind of this weird jerk who likes to blow things up. And sometimes it's cool.
Well, his mom may have been mentally ill.
Correct.
Because she went into one of the buildings knowing that it would blow up.
She probably was. But again, that's fine in a character study where you get to understand that no one's a bad guy and everyone has baggage and everyone does this and this and this. But in an allegory where you don't want to know. You want that chaos. You want that. That's why the Joker's so great in I
was just gonna say, like, consider this the Dark Knight.
Yes.
I have that picture. It's him. It's Christian Slater, JD, with the bomb strapped on him. I was trying. I think you did it, man. I was trying to make that connection because that picture reminded me so much of the Joker in the Dark Knight, where he opens up his jacket and he's got his finger connected to a grenade or some dynamite or something. And his character, he doesn't have a backstory, and his whole deal is that he is just this force of chaos that maybe came from nowhere. And that's like the most interesting thing about him. That is really brilliant.
When you give a chaotic character any kind of background, it takes away from the chaos, which if that's what you're going for, then that's what you shouldn't do.
Right. It starts ordering it. It starts making you pick out his motives.
If he wasn't a chaotic character, if he was just psycho, but we had reasons, then give me more dad stuff. That's fine. That's a perfectly fine movie. But you have this chaotic character who has this kind of green man devil type thing, where it's just this air of mystery. And then you give him these scenes, and I like those scenes, but I think it takes away from what the rest of the movie was speaking to me. Now, I could be totally wrong. Let me get to my last two things, and then it's all you. Water shower. She had just killed the two team.
That's right. The two jocks.
Okay. And so she has a fire inside, and she has JD, who is consumed by fire and possibly the devil. And this is her trying to cleanse herself. This is her trying to clean herself, trying to resist, trying to put the fire out. Again, super broad imagery of fire and water, but it's all there. And again, if you just did it once or twice, it'd be like, oh, that's really on the nose. but when you keep doing it again and again and again, it's starting to work. And then you finally have reflection in the knife. Again, you have
she sees herself in it.
She sees herself in the weapon that he's holding.
Mm.
And again, she's scared by it. So she's scared by her true nature of she's scared of her shadow, of her darkness. And the story is about her going to a dark place and then finding a way out of it. I mean, obviously she killed people, or she at least helped kill people. No, she killed the one boy. She shot him. So yeah. I mean, So she's not clean. She's a murderer. She's not necessarily a good person, even though at the end of the movie, you're okay with it for some reason. Like they make that work. But I just really loved all the fire and all the water and the knives and the reflections and how they're kind of good and bad and, evil and it's just really cool.
Well, I think you really hit on something for me as to why I couldn't just outright like this film, because I had said, like, there's just so many different things dangled in front of you, and I couldn't find one thing to latch onto about like what this movie was about. And I think that you just point out like a really great thing. Like, here's one simple fix that would have brought this whole thing together, because the way the movie starts out, we were talking about this surrealism, this dreamlike nature where the Heathers are playing croquet and Veronica, she's like in the ground, getting hit by the croquet balls, very, very symbolic of where she stands in their relationship.
Right.
But that's the opening scene of the movie. It doesn't have like the mist over it that's the dream sequences generally have. Like it
you
looks
don't know it's a dream sequence
very real
until you see her head.
Exactly. And so that really sets the tone of the movie, in that it does seem very dreamlike when she's narrating to the camera, when she is writing furiously in her diary. And then later we do go to a legit dream sequence where it is the funeral of, I believe, the third Veronica, and everyone's there with like these 3D glasses. There's the mummy man over there. It finally goes all the way into the surrealism,
and then
this movie goes
so good. Keep going.
Yeah,
I love this.
Ortho. Yeah, but this movie it drifts in and out of this, like just all of these absurd things, to where. So like the very first death in the movie, the first Heather drinking the drain cleaner, I couldn't buy it, because I was like, there's no way you would smell it. I don't think you would just die. I think you just like get really sick first and then be like, take me to the hospital. Like my bullshit meter just immediately went off. But that is the tone of the movie. Right. Yeah. And so if we put it into the world of allegory, it just seems to work a lot better. So I had talked about absurdism. I was trying to figure out like kind of what genre this movie is. It says online that it's satire, which it is, but I don't think that quite cuts it. And I was looking up, is this surrealist cinema? And I was looking that up, and we see that if you look up surrealist cinema, you see a lot of Stanley Kubrick films come up, which I guess he was considered originally to be the director of this. So that kind of lines up. However, I was thinking about absurdism, this idea that life is absurd, and you're put into these situations that you have no control over, and you just have to learn. The only way to defeat the absurdity of life is to learn to be okay with it. And we see that again in that opening sequence. What's the song that's playing? Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. And then they play another version.
It bookends it.
At the end. And so it that just really jumped out to me as like, this is what the movie is about. It's about things happen that we have no control over, and you have to like learn to live within that chaos, and be okay with it to some degree.
Well, and I think you're onto something there, but it's also, to tack onto that, it's also like in an absurdist world, nothing matters, some would argue. So then you could do whatever, which these characters do. And it's her saying, okay, que sera, sera, you deal with it. You have to accept it. But she's also choosing to be a good person at the end.
Right. So she brings it into order. Where she starts, she is allowing these people that are influencing her life to sort of turn her into a bad person. And then we get the devil symbol in it that's able to take her all the way over to the other side. And then eventually she has to make a choice to like bring order to herself by becoming friends with the girl that was bullied at the very beginning.
Yeah.
So, and this I thought was really interesting. Again, in trying to look for themes in this movie, I thought like, well, are they like making suicide popular? Like, is that something that's going on in the school? Because we have Martha here. She's got the Big Fun T-shirt on, which that's the band that like makes the song "Teen Suicide, Don't Do It" or whatever they have going on, and it's just like this real ironic shot where she has the suicide note on her and this shirt saying "Don't do it," more or less, and she's going to kill herself. And it's like, why did she decide to do that? And for me, this movie is just really hard to think about, and it's hard to contextualize because it seems, even though it was made in the 80s, it seems very relevant today when we have problems with school shootings and with teen suicide, and as bullying, bullying's huge. And this movie, it tells me a couple of different things. The first is that while it seems like very new, it seems like a very new problem for our modern world. However, this movie shows us that this was part of like the social conscience back in the 80s as well. People were asking questions about school shootings and a teen suicide, and how do we prevent it? What causes it? Why do people do this? And so I was trying to kind of look into that theme and coming up a little blank on it. But I do feel like this movie has gotten a bit of a resurgence in the past few years, mostly because it's like free to stream. But another thing that really struck me was that when like these tragedies happen, people are very quick to point to different types of media to say like, this is the cause of all of our problems, or that is the cause of all of our problems. It's this video game, or it's that musician, or it's this movie. And Heather's in particular, I don't know if I've ever heard it brought up as like a culprit for any of these. And I think it's just really interesting that JD, right, he's going around in a trench coat and he's planting bombs inside the school, which was a big thing with Columbine. And I'm just so surprised that I haven't heard of this movie being like the center of controversy anywhere. When I went and like looked at the Wikipedia page, I figured there would be a tab about it saying like this movie was blamed for this or that. Nothing. And so I'm just trying to figure out, where does this fit in that natural conversation or natural national conversation, and where does it fit in our cultural zeitgeist?
Well, I don't have answers to any of that.
Yeah, tell me the answer.
Have answers, but I will say one thing. When I think of Heather's, Heather's is extremely dark.
Oh, incredibly
dark. When I think of Heather's, that's not the first thing that comes to mind, and I don't know why that is. I think some of it's the quirky dialogue. A lot of it's the absurdist nature. I think you can talk about really dark and controversial things, and when you put them into something that's absurd or surreal or just semi-ridiculous. Yes. Yeah. Like, yeah, then it takes the edge off a little bit so that people can, I don't know, digest it a little more and come to their own opinions about these weighty topics.
Yeah, I really have to respect movies that at least get you thinking about certain things, and they don't tell you this is how it is, this is how you have to think about this thing.
Yeah,
this is the correct answer. They just say, I just want you to consider this.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that like touches on a lot of really heavy issues, but it doesn't feel preachy.
Correct.
Even in its big thing of, hey, be a good person, it's not even hitting you over the head with that. It's just the obvious nature of storytelling of like,
right.
Yeah, do the right thing. So yeah.
We are running out of time. I want to say something really quick, and then I'm just going to cut it off because I want to be controversial. Mean Girls did it better. Chris, what is the movie?
Well, I have one word to say. Eskimo.
Oh, Eskimo. So deep.
We're you know what? One good turn deserves another. We're watching one of my favorite movies next week. Written by the same man, directed by the same man, Hudson Hawk.
Nice. Hudson Hawk next week, free on Tubi. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. We have been compelled by Schlock, and we will see you next week.
Schlock.
Bye, everybody.
Schlocky, schlock.